Everybody's got a story. You just have to listen. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and this is Good Listen. Today, Rob DelliBovi tells his story. Have you ever seen a celebrity waiting to board Southwest or a rock star check into the Holiday Inn Express? Probably not. That's because people like Rob exist. For over 20 years, Rob has worked in the travel and hospitality industry, made a name for himself in VIP circles, and started his own company, RDB Hospitality. So how did it all start for him, and what's it like to organize the lifestyles of the rich and famous? Let's find out. Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. I know it's been a long time, and I want to go back to some of the moments that we've had together, but I want to start by the idea of travel. So as a Jersey kid growing up, immigrant parents, my only vacations were Wildwood and Jersey Shore or going back to my family's home in Spain. So I never got to travel much when I was a kid. So never had the travel gene like as an adult. Like I'll go to like islands and resorts and I always hit you up for advice for places to go, but it's just not in my bones. Like I'm not like, oh my God, I can't wait to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But you, on the other hand, you have that travel bug because if anyone follows you on social media, you get around, and I know a lot of it is professionally, but you get a lot of personal pleasure out of it. So tell me about your love of travel at the jump here.
Yeah, by the way, we don't see a lot of Wildwood, Spain travel childhoods, by the way. That's a very unique kind of setup for us.
It's not common.
For a kid. But that's actually kind of diverse in terms of well, I guess things that most children experience, but that's we'll talk about that another day for sure. Yeah, I love travel, and I'll tell you why I love travel so much. I love meeting people. I have an obsession with meeting people. I collect friends, I collect contacts. And when you travel, you meet people every day. It's forced. Whether or not you're trying to, whether or not, that's your purpose, it just happens organically when you travel. And I love meeting people from all over the world, all different walks of life. I love meeting people that are experts in different things because I learn. Like you're a radio expert, right? You've been around in radio. So whenever I get a chance to hang out with you, I want to know everything about radio, right? And like, tell me about radio. How does this work? How does the business work? What are you doing during commercial breaks? Like all the kind of weird questions I ask you, that's 10x when I'm traveling is I'm meeting people from literally all over. I was in Dublin, I was in Ireland, and I sat next to a guy who literally works at the Jameson factory, right? And he was telling me all about how they make Jameson. Then I went on the tour. He got me a tour of it. I met lawyers in Australia. I've met, a rock band in Italy. It's just for me, it's a way to just experience the world. And it sounds like kind of a weird thing to say, but it helps me with my problem, which is collecting people and friends. And my whole thing is any city I go to in the world, I want to have a group there. I want to have people who can show me around, people I can hang out with, people who can recommend things. And traveling really satisfies that. And I built a business on that, by the way. So when people want to go to Houston or Sofia, Bulgaria, I have a friend in both cities who can help out. And it was like, oh, yeah, here's where you go in Sofia. By the way, this place is delicious for Bulgarian food. Like, I have no idea, right? So that network, I think, is kind of how our company does better than our competitors because we have this network of people that give us all the ins. And I'm giving advice to all of these travelers before they go based on real life stuff and real cool kids from each city. So yeah, that's kind of my reasoning. Also food and drink. I'm a big food guy. I want to taste every food in the world. I want to experience new cuisine, new wine, and learn about it and hopefully, bring it back to the US in some way.
And now my wife gives me shit too because part of my non-travel gene is the fact that traveling can be expensive, as you know, Rob. I remember like every time I would book us a vacation, as most people know, when you book a vacation, usually you're paying everything all at once. You're getting the air for the hotel. So you've got that very intimidating click when you see the full dollar amount for something and you're clicking, holy shit, I know I'm not going to get this money back. This trip better be great. So can you remember a trip where you were like hesitating to push that button because it was going to be so extravagant, so audacious, so expensive, that you were hesitated to push yes, but ended up doing so?
Yeah, the way I mentally handle that, that's all future Rob's problem, right? That's all after trip Rob's problem. That's not before trip Rob's problem. No, seriously, this happens often, especially in flights. I'm a bit of a flight snob, so I love, I need my bed when I'm flying overseas. I need my business class ticket. If there's one thing that I irrationally spend money on, it is flights, right? And business class travel has gotten so expensive. You're talking this summer to go to Europe in business class, it's $6-8 grand. I mean, no matter where you're going, no matter what day of the week you're traveling, you're spending at least $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. I like to offset that with points often, Amex points and different kind of credit card points and things like that. But the phenomenon you're describing happens pretty often to me personally, where I'm like, ooh, this is going to be an expensive trip. But, I'm a big, and I hate to use the term I hate to bring down the quality of your show, but I'm a big YOLO guy. And, I'm a big you only live once guy. And these experiences are kind of what I put why I work so hard during the week is to overspend on experience like this. And that goes from flight to hotel to, food and beverage to all of that. And that's how I justify it in my head, at least. But yeah, I'm pushing that button because I know that what I'm going to end up doing is going to be something that I never forget and something I talk about, for the rest of my life. And selfishly, it's also something I'm going to be able to speak better to my clients about and kind of put myself above my competitors. So again, I'm irrationally spending on things like flights and dinner, but I have many means of justifying it on the inside. That's how I get that done.
That's so cool. Now I should know this, but are you millennial or Gen X? Because I know you're probably on the border. What are you?
Ooh, I don't know. What is the cutoff? I'm March 18th, 1980. So I really don't know.
Yeah, you're like right on the bubble there. You're right on the bubble because when you said the word experiences and, working in media my whole life, you saw these stories pop up over the last 10 years, how millennials crave experiences. They don't want shit as other generations did. They didn't want to have possessions. They were living the Rob DelliBovi life of saving up their money and traveling to places and experiencing different cultures, different foods, different drinks. Where do you think that came from for you when you first began this journey of loving travel? Because it's interesting that people today live so, and I know I'm speaking in general terms, but they live very simply, but then you'll see them in Tahiti. So it's always weird that the dichotomy of life that people are living these days. So talk to me about that early experiences of becoming this person who just craved experiences.
Yeah, and by the way, what the phenomenon you're talking about, we see everywhere in obviously in travel, but also we consult in the hotel business and the bar and nightlife business, and the nightlife and bar business has been affected so gravely by this because people the younger crowd doesn't want to sit with a bottle in front of them anymore. They want to be doing things. This is why concepts like Top Golf and Brooklyn Bowl are so successful right now, is because this crowd that's dominating nightlife, they need to be doing stuff. They need to be playing darts. They need to be bowling. They need to be hitting a golf ball. They need to be at a concert. They need some kind of experience because sitting with a bottle in front of you at a bar or nightclub is no longer cutting it. So it's just a little fun side fact that's really changed the industry over the last 10 years. Anyway, yeah, I mean, to answer your question comes back to the people thing, right? I've always been a people person. My parents said I was on the subway and we were like 4 years old and we were in Queens on the subway, and like a guy would sit next to me on the subway, and I'm 4 years old and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And the guy's like, and he'd have like a bag, and I'm like, what's in the bag? Right? I've just always kind of, been a people kind of crave, a relationship and people person. And I think that kind of fed the experience run versus the material things needs, right? Because if you get whatever for Christmas, that's just something that goes on the shelf. But these stories, and when you come back from a trip, I have friends for life. I have people that, when I get married in 2048, I'm going to have a groomsmen party of, you and all these other people I met in all these great places. And it's these relationships just live forever. And I spend a lot of time keeping these relationships up, by the way. I think that's why I like experience, because the meeting of people is, I guess, my form of kind of like material thing, like collecting things, et cetera.
That's so cool. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but I remember years ago we talked that while you were starting your consultancy with hotels, you were meeting with this big hotel mogul, very wealthy, very successful, and you had done this whole presentation to him, and he only had one question: what's my Instagrammable moment of this hotel? Like, where will people take pictures to share? And I remember laughing at when you shared that story to me, but how common is that when these folks that are creating concepts that are going to be experiences down the line want to have that Instagram moment in their establishment, their venue, what have you?
Yeah, when I tell you this is a major part of planning to build in the hotel, restaurant, nightlife world, like a whole thing will be planned out, designed. Architects, designers, creative people, people like me who got to, add a common sense factor of what's needed in that meeting with billionaires and all these people. Someone's going to be like, what is the Instagrammable moment at this hotel? Because that is better. That Instagrammable moment is better than any PR company, respectful to our PR company who's listening, and any marketing moment and anything that we can plan or pay for. This Instagrammable moment organically is going to bring in billions and billions and billions of impressions, millions of eyes. That is, it's just, there's no other way to achieve this kind of visibility. So if I always use, there's a number of examples. I always, any place that has the rosé all day, kind of and neon lights behind you, like every girl in the world who's, aged 18 to 35 is maybe 18 to 50 is stopping and taking a picture in front of that. The Cosmopolitan really did a job on accident. If you the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas, they have these like high heel shoes that are life size, that are human size, and people can get into high heeled shoes. They get billions of impressions from those shoes, which probably cost, I don't know, a couple grand. And those shoes are more important to them than any marketing campaign or any vendor they hire in the world. So this Instagrammable moment, and of course, when we say Instagrammable moment, we mean across all, social media platforms. That moment is just wildly important. And I go to a lot of places and I'm like, I can't believe this beautiful place doesn't have anything that I want to take a photo of or in front of or anything. And the fact that people build things without these experiences like blows me away. I can't, I'm like, how did they forget to put something, the equivalent, the on-brand equivalent to the Rosé All Day sign? How did this place forget to do that? It's crazy because they're missing out on so much visibility.
That's so cool. Yeah, no, I remember you telling me that story, and I still tell people that story all the time. It's so great that like these ultra wealthy people are thinking about what a selfie's going to look like. It's beyond me. But still, it makes a lot of sense how you broke it down.
People who don't know what Instagram is are saying, "What is our Instagrammable moment?" Great.
Yeah, that's even better. They wouldn't even know how to log in. They're like, how do I get on this? What's my password?
They don't even know what it is. Right. Exactly. Totally.
All right. And one of the things, so I met you years ago when you're working hotels, you've worked your way up. And then during the last, I guess 10, 15 years that I've known you, you've become this go-to guy for celebrities to book vacations. Because I know that's not something you set out to do one day. I'm like, hey, one day I want to book vacations for Hollywood A-lister blank. Can you share the story of how that all came about?
Yeah, I mean, we booked for a major A-lister last month, Joe Partavilla. I don't know if you know him. Podcast. Oh, well,
yeah, you did.
Yeah. We put him in L.A. We booked him up in L.A. last week. But so I basically started because I was in the hotel business and I was in charge of sales for these hotels. And whenever there was an important person coming, not just a celebrity, but anybody of any rebooking importance, the head of a corporation or a big travel agent or a celebrity or an athlete, I would go greet them. I'd always show up at the front door and be like, hey, here's your key. Don't bother with the front desk. Let me know anything you need. Here's a business card, whatever. Half of these people, maybe 90% of these people, ripped up my business card, never talked to me, threw it away. The 10% that did became friends and became people I spoke to all the time because they would come back to wherever I was or use the hotel I was running or go to the bar that I own or whatever. And those people ended up being my first clients when I created my own company, which is it was 2015, 16, 17. Because of that hotel business and I was meeting all of these people, I was able to use them as part of the group that I helped start my company with. I just kind of backdoored my way into their world. So it was it wasn't like I started this company and said, I'm going to go after celebrities, right? It was that, I was just in that. Then when I was in LA, I would visit these people and I'd meet other important, famous people, and some of them were jerks and some of them were amazing. And I, like every other relationship when I'm traveling, I retained the amazing ones and never talked to the jerks again. Right. It was a little bit because of the business I was in before while I was creating this business. And it was a little bit organic, kind of just meeting people in networking in those worlds.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there was that, that scene from Always Sunny. There aren't red strings connecting it. This didn't sound incredibly intentional where you took these hotel jobs as a master plan. 10 years from now, I'm going to launch a VIP vacation service. It wasn't anything like that, Rob. I don't think you're that nefarious, right?
Correct. I don't want to say I'm not nefarious, but I certainly did not start it with that intention. No.
All right. Can you share, if possible, again, not naming names, the most unusual request or one of the most unusual requests you've gotten from one of these high profile clients where you were like, because I know you know so many experiences. So most times someone says, can I do this? You're like, yeah, I know a guy. But has there been one where you're like, oh, Jesus, Google, where is that? Where is that in this? Where's that on the globe?
Yeah.
Was there one that stands out?
Yeah, we deal. So we have thousands of these requests. We can do a whole podcast for 3 days on just these requests. But we get a lot of great ones. I mean, a lot of people ask for just, the real vanilla ones. A lot of people ask for like weird food and stuff, like peanut butterless peanut butter and stuff like that. We have to find, easy to find in New York, hard to find in Kansas City, stuff like that. Some really odd ones. We do a lot of music tours. So we book kind of a group of people in, 30 cities and 40 nights. It's like a traveling music tour, a sports team. We have somebody who companionship-wise requests a dog, a medium-sized dog in all hotel rooms. So when this particular traveler gets to town, they need a dog. And they don't want to own a dog. They don't want to travel with a dog, which is, as we know, a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
But they want the companionship of a dog. So there was a time where we were sourcing a dog in every city of medium size too, was what they wanted. So nothing too big, nothing too small. So that was a weird one. On the more kind of gross level, we did have we had a celebrity guest who wanted us to black out all the windows in their rooms. You can't see your hand in front of your face. That was the rule on how kind of blacked out the room was.
Wow.
And then this person wanted a colonic, which is a cleaning of the colon area.
Yeah.
So we had to source a mobile colonic unit. And this person was only in town for 2 days. I don't know why that type of cleaning was required, but that was one of the more odd ones we get. But we really get it all. We get asked for a lot of illegal things. We made a habit of not, we have too good of a business. We made a habit of not doing illegal things for anybody. When everybody wants, a lot of people want all the illegal stuff. But we get a lot of weird room requests, like people who don't want any like Western light in the room, like the only Northern, Southern, or Eastern light in the room, because I guess when the sun comes in from the West or whatever, it's no good, no bueno. And a lot of weird things like that. We get a lot of like, I got to my room, this room has a bad energy, I'd like to change rooms. And we'll put people in the exact same room type on a different floor, and they're like, this energy is better. It's all the same. So I just work here, right? So we get a lot of
dog person, I need to know, how did you source these dogs in town to town? Like, for example, like did you call up like the adoption agency in the town? Did you call pet stores? Like, I'm fascinated by how you even like were able to procure one in multiple locations, let alone one.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we had to create a paperwork that the talent had to signing their life away in terms of liability, right? If the dog bites you or kills you or something, like, it's just it's not the owner's fault. So we had to kind of protect. But we started honestly with the staff at the hotels. We're like, does anyone have a dog they want to like loan to this talent for 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights, because music tours, they don't typically stay very long. So it's not. And we had a lot of success. Some of the people were like, can the talent sign something for me or take a picture with me or something? We'll figure that out in some places. We did start on site with the staff and their pets. We did call a couple of pet store shelters for a couple cities. Some cities just not happening, but some cities are, it's just some cities they're only in for 3 or 4 hours. We were like, do you need the dog for the 3 or 4 hours? Like, no. So we had to be, like a lot of things that we source. We have to be super creative. Like, again, if things were easy to get, they wouldn't be calling and paying me to do so, right? So we don't get like a lot of the easy requests. We get a lot of the really difficult requests. So it's classic sourcing. And to go back to like the theme of this call, which is like, I need to know a lot of people to get stuff like that done, right? So if I'm in Minneapolis, I'm asked for 5 weird things. I have to call my friends in Minneapolis who are outside of the business and say, do you know a guy with a medium-sized dog who's willing to give it to someone they don't know for 24 hours for like $500 or something? And that was kind of, that's kind of the theme here, is to get stuff done. People is more important than money, in my opinion. Like, money won't buy you into all the hottest clubs in the world, but people will if you know the guy or girl running it. So I think that often people are more powerful than money.
All right. So we are recording this in the winter of 2024. Life's good for the travel business, from what I understand. It's booming. We've already mentioned that people just love their experiences. They want to travel. They want to get out. But the last time we had a really, really serious conversation was in March of 2020. I don't know if you recall that little pandemic thing. It might have affected your industry a little bit, Rob.
Yeah, a small one.
So it was dark times, and I remember when we spoke, you were very positive that once we get through this, it's going to explode, and it did. But if you don't mind, take us back to those early days when essentially your business, it was like a light switch. It was one day it was on, next day it was off. What was it like early on? And then when did you see the light at the end of the tunnel? We're like, oh my God, we're back.
Yeah, pretty brutal start. We had one recording artist who was traveling in Asia in January. And that recording artist called us and said, cancel my whole tour. And we were like, cancel your whole tour? And he's like, yeah, I think this disease is going to be a big deal and I'm afraid of it. I don't want to deal with it. I was like, you're being ridiculous. This is a very small contained thing in China.
It's a flu.
Early January. Well, before my "it's a flu" comments, it was like, this isn't even a thing yet. This exists, a small town in China. And that particular recording artist, who will go unnamed, was more correct than anybody else I've spoke to the entire time, including myself. So when it started to get really bad in early March, we were like, oh, wow, this is bad. And I remember being like, okay, this is going to be a 1 or 2 month thing. And 1 or 2 months off from work was actually kind of welcome. I was like, oh, great. You take a 1 or 2 month break from working? And that's not a bad deal. But then it got really bad. When they canceled the March Madness tournament, I was like, they canceled March Madness? I remember being like, this is crazy. And I'm in Florida and they closed Disney World. I'm like, they closed Disney World? And then they closed the beach. And I'm like, oh man, this is a big deal. Don't forget, I just couldn't hang it up and just, hang. I had to cancel a whole year worth of things. So I was contacting hotels, trying to get people's money back. Hotels didn't know what was going on. I couldn't get everyone's money back necessarily because the hotels like me were like, this is a 2-week thing. We're going to keep the money. So everyone else who kind of went out of business was able to stop working. I had to keep working without making money to cancel everyone's things, right? And on top of that, I went from having all these employees and a great business to being on unemployment 7 days. Typically a recession takes 2 to 3 quarters to kind of set in and kill everybody. This happened in a week. And it was my 40th birthday week. So I was feeling sorry for myself on all levels, right? Personally and professionally. So as it kind of went through, it was about a shift to being solution oriented and okay, this is, we're down for a bit. It's going to come back, as you and I discussed, and we were on a podcast and we were talking about, when and how, which I was probably wrong about. But in terms of mentally handling this, it was like, how am I going to, what am I going to do with my time? I'm used to working 80-hour weeks, now working literally 0-hour weeks. And don't forget, our income in our business, and this goes across the board in our industry, it didn't go down 30% or 60%. Our income dropped 100%. We were making $0 from March 10th until September, nothing, zero. And the government did a good job, I think, of taking care of us and all of that. But it was a really, really tough time for the industry. Most of the industries recovered greatly, right? There's some places in the San Francisco type world that are kind of not there yet. But this year is going to be the biggest year in travel. This year will be the first year that's bigger than 2019 in travel. And 2019 was the biggest travel year ever. So this, without any, new weird disease, this should be the biggest year in world travel history. And the prices reflect it and the crowds reflect it. Everything is absolutely bananas. It's kind of correcting a bit. Miami, where I am, was the hottest travel market in the world in 2020 and 2021, just because of regulation. Now Miami is corrected and slowed down a bunch because they've had their Miami for the last couple of years. Now they're going to a lot of other places. So it's fun to watch it bounce back. Obviously, business is great. Our team is bigger than it was in 2019. Our business is bigger than it was in 2019. Recruiting, which I do, I own one of the largest recruiting companies in hospitality-focused recruiting companies, is really interesting because recruiting has changed in a profound way in the sense that nobody wants to go into an office. So people call me and they're like, can you help us find a team here? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, they have to work in the office. So when I have a job, I'm looking for people that are remote. I get 1,000 resumes. When I get a job, I'm looking that has to go into the office 5 days a week. I get 2-3 resumes. So people who are willing to go into the office are making big money now. First of all, they're making more money than they would have before COVID. And secondly, they have the jobs of their choice. If you're willing to go to an office, you have no problem in hospitality getting a job right now. Remote workers, and I caveat this with the fact that I'm a remote worker. I work from home, so I'm not blaming them on anything. But they really are having trouble because it's getting less about being home now and more into return to office. But this has changed the recruiting industry, and it's very interesting.
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so let's talk about RDB Hospitality, the empire that you've built there over the last 10 years. Who's it for? Because we've kind of made this conversation about celebrities and quirky artists, but who is RDB Hospitality for?
Yeah, it's for the industry. We're the only company that does it all. We're the only company that will do the following. On one side of the company, represent travelers and people who need concierge services. So we are sending people all over the world. We're recommending where to go. We're not only putting people in hotels and private jets and commercial air and cars and boats, we're also putting them in restaurants and nightlife establishments. We're getting them tickets to things. We're doing everything travel and concierge. Those industries are typically separate. So we put them together. And on top of that, we're also running, advising on, recruiting for, and managing venues. So while we're telling people where to go and what to do and getting them into places and planning their lives, we're also running and advising on and managing and recruiting for and training for the places that they're going, right? So we're the only company in the world that does this. There are zero others. And it's really great because one helps the other, right? And this is why, who's this for? This is for the industry. The side of the business that runs these venues and helps them manage and consults on these venues and hires for these venues, the hospitality services company we own, we're able to better run those hotels and tell owners how to create those hotels, Instagrammable moment, like we just talked about, things like that, because we represent the travelers and we know what they want, right? Like we're hearing every day, like that was great and that was terrible from travelers. So we know like, oh, this is what they're looking for right now. And this is what they need and want. Conversely, we can really help our travel and concierge customers because we're advising on running, associated with, friends with all of the vendors on the vendor side. So we can do better for them too than other companies. And so when you're working with us, and no matter what side you're on, and by the way, a lot of people work with both of our sides, we can really get things done. We can speak to what both sides are looking for. We understand both sides better than anyone else. Like travel and concierge people, they don't know at the end of the day how a hotel runs. They don't know how the inner workings of a hotel runs, why I'm cleaning your room at 9 a.m. and someone else's room at 11 a.m. They don't know any of that. And conversely, the hospitality businesses, the bars and restaurants and nightclubs and hotels and all of these places we work with, they don't end of day have any pull in terms of where these people are going and what they're doing and what they see. So we can just help both sides. And we can keep it all in house. I could say, hey, I'll send you to the places we're associated with in Stockholm, and they're going to take better care of you. And I could tell the Stockholm people, I'm going to send you all our travelers, take good care of them. And it just all works, and no one else is doing it on planet Earth. And I'm sure I should stop talking about it on podcasts because someone else is going to start doing it. But I think that it's just really, really working.
It sounds like something really hard for someone else to do. So I don't think you have to worry too much about that. And on that, on the subject of you being this people person, but also being a boss. As you know, my day job, I'm consulting entrepreneurs and business leaders on podcasts. But I was curious in terms of how you connected your people person abilities to being a boss, because those two sometimes cannot coexist, because you can't be friendly, Rob, hey, how's it going? You want to hang out? And then like, hey, you're fired. So tell me how you come to be able to sleep at night and be able to be the person that you've become, but also being a boss.
Yeah, nobody's saying I'm sleeping well at night, by the way. That was not part of my list. But yeah, I mean, look, to me, it's the extreme honesty route without emotion. That is my tactic. And by the way, I say to people that work for me all the time, let's go get a beer. Often when we're having a beer, I'm like, you have to be better at the following things, or this won't work out for you. And when I hire people, I hire only people I know, right? I don't hire people I don't know ever in some way. And I have, again, people person, I have the luxury of having a good group to hire from. I only hire people I know. And when I hire them, I say, look, we're all friends here. We have a previous relationship. You have one chance with me. People say you have 2 chances, 3 chances. You have one chance. Don't take advantage of our friendship. Don't take advantage of our company. We give really great benefits here. We have effectively unlimited vacation, right? Everybody works from home. I don't care what hours you work, just get the work done. We're one of those places. The second you take advantage I'm very comfortable going to someone, if I'm having a beer with them at a bar, or we're in a business meeting, saying, you are taking advantage of the company for the following reasons. Do not do that anymore, or this is not working out. I'm sorry. So I remove emotion from the business side of it always. And I also am just brutally, extremely honest. But while it's happening, by the way, I'm never going to blindside an employee and say, oh, well, you've been doing a terrible job, you're fired. They're going to know over the series of 20 discussions we had that something is not working. And I've removed, my days in the hotel business, my days in this business, I've removed people that I love dearly and I'm friends with. And I'm like, oh, I hope we can hang out this weekend. It just so happens you can't work here anymore. You didn't show up to work the last 2 days, but hopefully we still be friends. Does that always happen? Of course not. But I find it easier than one thinks. And everybody, including and especially my parents, are like, oh God, don't be friends with anybody you work with. Or what are you doing? Right? Like and they're old school and they should be. Yeah. But like, I don't really have a problem with any of this. It's never really kicked me in the butt because I'm just happy to be honest. Like, oh, like you did amazing here. You really dropped the ball on this. Like, and we write people up with this progressive discipline when it happens, but it's very rare that we have a problem. And the good part about hiring people, the downside is that often or occasionally they take advantage of you. But the good part is that them, right? Like you have an idea about their character. You have an idea about the type of people they are and their work ethic and things like that because you know them already, right? Like, have I been surprised after hiring somebody in the past? Of course. But I think that I have a pretty good idea of what I'm getting going in. And I'm also like a bit of a realist. Like, people have said to me like, oh, don't hire that person. Like, they're never going to grow. They're never going to want to be more. And I'm like, well, some people don't want to be more. Some people are okay making 46 grand and working as a part-time assistant for the rest of their lives. There's nothing wrong with that. We need role players as much as we need go-getters. So, just being aware of the world and the human experience and how people are. It just makes it. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, but I think the hiring people means you know them, and that just means there's less surprises later on.
All right, and lastly, how our iPhone every once in a while we get that alert that says you're going to get a new update tonight, and then the phone's better the next day and everything like that. And you, in a way, have sort of operated your life like that. You've taken these steps to update your software and become better and better and build this company from nothing. Is this the Rob you saw yourself being when you were a kid, when you were on that subway 4 years old, talking to strangers? Like, is this the ultimate like iOS of Rob DelliBovi right now, of like who you wanted to be as you were growing through the hospitality business, as you were a little kid? Going on those first trips, like, is this who you wanted Rob to be?
Professionally, yes. Like I've always wanted to work for myself. I'm like an annoying guy who worked at every job I've ever worked at. I've been like, well, I can do better than this about my boss. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not, to be clear. But I was always the type who's like, oh, why are they doing this way? So I've always kind of wanted to be my own boss and run my own show and bet on myself. So professionally, I'm where I'm certainly where 4-year-old or 10-year-old or 15-year-old Rob would have wanted to be. Things like being a baseball player and stuff, obviously to the side, right? That's just not going to have a 5'7", 100. Yeah, it's just not going to work out.
I feel you.
Yeah. It's just, but like realistically, in terms of like running my own show, doing my own thing, I think I'm where I want to be. Personally, like I can still be, I think we're all working to be better people, right? Like I still walk into the room and judge people. I can still be a better person, I think, pretty quickly. I can improve in terms of like being a judgmental person and being a better human and all that. And I think I'm being more empathetic and stuff like that in life. But yeah, I think the personal journey is one for all of us, but I don't think I'm doing a lot wrong. But professionally, if I did this exact same thing with this exact same team for this exact same income and everything for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. I know it's only going to grow, which is good, pending more COVID type diseases. But yeah, I think that this is a really great place to be. And we're doing something truly unique. Again, when I brag or humble brag or whatever, that we're the only one that does this on planet Earth, we truly are. So when I pitch these big companies and these big hotel companies, and I'm like, let me help you. And they're like, why should we hire you? I'm like, we do 50 things and no one else does these things for you. Like major executives, billionaires, all these people are like, wow, I haven't heard that before. And that's part of this. That's part of this. So yeah, we love having that conversation and loving where we're at right now for sure.
Awesome. His name is Rob DelliBovi. Rob, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate your friendship. Appreciate the time you've taken.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're growing and you'll continue to grow. And hopefully you'll still accept my text messages in the years to come.
Always. You know that. Always. Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime. And that's today's Good Listen. I'm Joe Pardavila. You can always connect with me on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Joe Pardavila or TikTok at J Pardavila. If you want to reach out, feel free to shoot me an email at joepardavila@protonmail.com and tell me your story. Lastly, if you could please leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, that would be awesome. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.